So the spirits want to talk about these, the words Nagual and Tonal, which were first brought forth by Don Juan in the sort of 1960s. The shaman Don Juan, amazing shaman, in the 1960s, anthropologist Carlos Castaneda brought out a series of books based on the words of Don Juan, which is amazing reading. But he talked about the Nagual and the Tonal. Different people may pronounce that differently, but so the Nagual is, we might feel it's difficult to talk about these two subjects because they are two completely different dimensions, really. The tonal is a dimension more connected with the social world and the internalized social world, so all social realms, if you like, whereas the Nagual is our internal realm, with a sense of the energy of our internal realm and the purity of that, if you like, truth, purity of that. You could almost call it a subconscious, the dream world, really. So we've got these two separate dimensions going on, and the problem is that they are very much like oil and water, so that as we jog along in our life, we get mixed and muddled, and a bit of the oil goes into the water realm, and the water realm goes into the oil, and we kind of feel, we might even have an incredibly pinpoint tidied house. You know, our desk might always be neat. We might have that feeling that it's kind of like this feeling that just messy, you know. And this is what that they want to talk about, that kind of sense of feeling. And then we clear something up. Usually we clear something up from the inside, something that's been bothering us, maybe some sort of wound, something that someone keeps doing to us, we keep getting hurt by. And let's say we clean that up, and once we've cleaned that up, we actually feel less messy, almost as if our desk has just been, just sort that little bit out, straighten that bit there, and it's just that lovely lining up. That feels gorgeous, that's lovely. And in a sense, our spiritual journey is very much about tidying up these two realms, the one to the other. It's very difficult to talk about because the realm of you might call it, I'll call the Nagual the water realm actually, and I'll call the tonal world the air realm rather than oil and water. It's a bit more confusing. So the Nagual realm is very much the water realm of our true feelings on something. And when it's kind of gone askew, and let's say we've got abandonment issues, we have a lot of pain in a certain area, instead of having the truth of value, which would be the true Nagual part lining up, we've kind of misaligned. And a misalignment means that part kind of floods into the tonal world where it kind of shouldn't be, because it's being hurt. It's a leak in our spiritual body. And so a leak is something that's gone from the Nagual, the water realm, into a different realm, which is why we feel messy. This is a very difficult thing to explain, because it's kind of like explaining your dream. You know, when you have that dream and it's like, it's so real at the time and it made so much sense. And when you wake up, let's say the tonal world, when you wake up into the tonal world, you open your eyes and you wake up, you look at the time, think, check my emails. Oh God, have I got that worrying email from X or Y yet? Have they got back to me? coming into the tonal world, if you like, you were running around with a chicken head. And it absolutely made sense in that Nagual interior world. And that's because, and sometimes we meet that same world. Say if we maybe get drunk, we get that same. It hits that same dimension. We feel we have a fabulous time. Or sometimes, you might get stoned or something with drugs. I don't recommend it, but once, if we've done that, perhaps in the past, we've maybe reached that state of, it's a dreamlike state where it's almost like if it's evening time, we switch everything off, we switch the telly off, we put the candles on, we put the music on. And in a sense, there's a completely different feel to that, isn't there? And this is the existence of two different dimensions that we move between. We don't really truly move between. We actually only live in the Nagual dimension. But there's that sense of moving between, of moving further away from the Nagual dimension. So, for example, sitting in the evening in the dark with the candles, there's a different sense of ourself. We kind of expand, become more, almost magical. We become more magical in those moments. And it's the same in the dreamlike state that we're in. We become more fully Nagual. We go deeper into, because there's layers of it. Most of us sort of stay on the periphery of this Nagual place because it's a very deep pool and pretty scary, because there's all sorts of feelings down there, if you like, all sorts of truths that we're probably not ready to look at. So it's that realm, so this difference in dimension, and the two, because you can't have an untruth in the true spiritual body, it has to break out, if you like, through a hole in our energy body and go into a different dimension, which is kind of like the material world dimension. So we've got these two dimensions sort of living alongside all the time. And there's very much, you could say the brain was more to do with the tonal, and the gut and the will and the spirit was more about the Nagual, and the will was more about the Nagual. And so, as they like an oil and water picture, they really kind of don't mix together very well at all. And because the brain kind of takes the charge of the tonal social world, generally speaking, in spiritual terms, one of it thinks its duties is to make sure that the Nagual world stays absolutely where it should be and doesn't put a foot wrong or step over that edge, step over that line. Subjugation, yes. So you look at particular societies that have had very spiritual base, have been smashed even harder than others. Like the American Indians, for example, with their shaman culture, with their very spiritual culture, have been smashed harder than others. And that is because the tonal has this prowess status thing going on. It thinks it's the big boy. It's the superior. It's terrified of the fact that wow, this Nagual part, this deep spiritual part that sees and feels and everything, we don't want that one to be. It is the feminine. It is the more feminine part, of course. And again, we've got the balance, the male and female patriarchal societies taking precedence again. It's a thread that runs throughout. All generations, a generational historical thread that runs through our lives, really. The masculine, the male, the tonal, being supreme, and therefore subjugating the spiritual, laughing at. It can be subtle, just laughing at, humiliating. That's so mad. Gosh, she's bonkers, isn't she? You know, we all are a bit. Truth is, but shh. You know, that realm of that water realm, that fuzzy kind of watery realm, is actually much more in line with who we are than this controlling, more robotic, tonal decision making. But we're all of us more comfortable, if you like, with the more masculine side, which you could call it tonal as well. They wanted to talk about tonal and Nagual. The words have a great depth of power to them, and particularly the way they were used by Don Juan. Some words just ring and ring and ring and sing and sing and sing. It's like a word like relaxation or something. But it's so much more than that. The words just have, you know, this resonance to them, you could say. And that's why they wanted me to use those two words, even though they're not really used nowadays. You know, he brought them into the material world, if you like, and they want me to talk about them as well. So there's a great depth. The watery world is something, you know, if you've got a lot of unresolved stuff as well, that you know you have, can be pretty terrifying. And so you'll be very likely to steer clear from the feminine, steer clear from that watery world, the Nagual world. You know, you cope better, the brain will tell you, you'll cope better staying in that more sort of, I'd say shallow, but like an automaton decision making. Do that on a Tuesday, do that on a Wednesday, do that on a Thursday, do that on a Friday. You know, nicely kind of organised. But if there's that still sense of, and I think we all feel that, we all feel kind of messy. Feeling messy like that is a sure sign that we have unresolved hurts that will pop up. Situations will trigger it, and that's the time to look at it. Instead of, because we are here to learn. That's it. We are here to learn. To experience and taste and touch and feel everything, yes, but we are here to learn and expand our awareness. So if we get something bad that happens to us, you know, I know it's horrifically tough coming from sexual abuse myself, so I don't say this lightly. But when these things in the present day get triggered, they are an opportunity for us to look at them, to look at our feelings in the Nagual, in that big, deep pool of our Nagual, our spiritual body, where our spiritual body truly lives, in the Nagual pot, big melting pot, where it truly lives, to find that feeling and where it's really come from, and really how did we feel when X or Y happened to us? What was the shame we felt about ourselves, about how we responded, you know? And this is the bringing together of our feminine side with our masculine side. And the closer they get together, the closer they get together, the tonal becomes more like a skin. A lovely, perfectly formed skin, rather than a realm that we live in order to escape this realm. You know, very difficult to talk about all that, because it's such a deep dimension, but we all are familiar with it. You know, we have half of our life dreaming, and we have half of our life waking. And the half of our life that we spend, you know, in our dreaming body, if you like, we may find that more and more of our life as we go on gets more in line with our dreaming life, you know. And this is where the development of the will comes from, of course, because the more and more we take back the misalignments from the tonal, and we therefore expand our spiritual body, we close our leaks. Please see the spiritual vase. We close our leaks, and so we, in a sense, less of our true Nagual self, our inner self, gets leaked out. When that starts to happen, we then develop more personal power. You know, you can imagine it if you've got a colander, with lots of holes in it, and you fill in all those leaks, you're going to hold a lot more energy, let's call it energy as opposed to water, a lot more energy. And what then is able to happen is then we can start to call upon our own. It's pretty terrifying because there will be attacks coming at you because things will not want you to go there, to power. There are always challenges to power. But containing more and more and more and more of that power means we begin to grow, and it's a growth of our spiritual will, which is therefore us being able to truly create our world, what we want in our personal world, which is where our will grows from. Our will grows from the full complement of our saved, harnessed energy, and it just won't appear. It will not appear really until we have stopped leaking. You know, so each time we harness our own true status, our own self-worth, each time we harness and heal a wound, if you like, and we hold that firm. In a sense, what happens with these spiritual vases, you could imagine the energy level just rises and rises and rises and rises, which is pretty terrifying because it's not a place we've ever been to before, if you like, because we'll always have kept our energy at a manageably safe and comfortable level. What would happen if we allow our energy to keep going up? Our reality will keep changing. You know, it can be pretty terrifying. And so we must breathe. We must breathe when we're terrified. And so the energy comes up and up and up and up and up and up, and only when it's filling up the whole of our body and we're no longer leaking, it's almost like, you know, when you blow out rubber gloves, you know, and they go, and the little fingers come out. It's only the fullness of that spiritual body, let's call it the glove, the spiritual body. It's only, thank you for telling me that. It's a good analogy, that. Thank you. When we blow that glove with our full energy, the fingers come out. And the main finger that comes out in the spiritual body is our will. And it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. So we start to create what we're seeing. What we see, what we want, we start to actually create it, which is pretty powerful stuff. Yeah, that's a point at which to end, I think.